I'll never forget the feeling of her manicured fingernails digging into my scalp as she dragged me across that marble hallway. The pain was sharp, but the humiliation burned even deeper. "You worthless piece of trash," Victoria's voice echoed through the corridor. But what happened when we reached that bathroom door? When my billionaire employer heard everything from the other side? That's when my entire world flipped upside down. My name is Emma, and I'm about to tell you how one moment of absolute horror became the turning point of my entire existence. But before I dive into what changed everything, I need you to understand where I was coming from. Hit that subscribe button, because what happens next involves secrets, betrayal, and a twist that nobody saw coming, not even me. Let me take you back to where it all began. I work as a household attendant in one of Manhattan's most exclusive penthouses. We're talking about the kind of place where a single chandelier costs more than most people's houses. The elevator opens directly into the apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlook Central Park. Every surface gleams with wealth that most people can't even imagine. And my employer? That's Marcus Sullivan, CEO of Sullivan Technologies, a man worth more than some small countries. When I first started this job 9 months ago, I was desperate. Not the kind of desperate where you need a better car or a nicer apartment. I'm talking about the kind of desperate that keeps you awake at night, wondering how you'll keep food on the table. You see, I'm the sole guardian of my 7-year-old nephew, Tyler. 18 months ago, my sister, Rachel, and her husband perished in a boating accident off the coast of Maine. One phone call changed everything. Suddenly, I went from being a free-spirited woman in her late 20s to a single parent responsible for a traumatized little boy who'd lost his entire world in one terrible moment. Tyler is everything to me now, but he has a chronic respiratory condition that requires constant medical supervision and expensive treatments. The medical bills stack up on my kitchen counter like a monument to my inadequacy. Every month I'm juggling payments, making difficult choices, trying to figure out which bill I can delay without losing access to his doctors. The weight of that responsibility crushes me sometimes, but I can't let Tyler see that. He needs to believe I have everything under control, even when I'm terrified that I'm failing him. Working for Marcus Sullivan became my lifeline. The job came with comprehensive health insurance, the kind that actually covers Tyler specialists. The salary wasn't extravagant, but it kept us afloat. I could breathe again, at least a little. So I followed the unspoken rules that the other staff members taught me. Stay invisible, don't make eye contact unless necessary, anticipate needs before they're voiced, and above all, don't make waves. In a household like this, you're part of the scenery, a ghost who keeps everything running smoothly while remaining utterly forgettable. Marcus himself wasn't like other wealthy people I'd encountered. He was thoughtful, polite, and treated the staff with genuine respect. He remembered everyone's names. He asked about our families. Once, when I mentioned Tyler's birthday, he showed up the next day with an expensive telescope because I'd casually mentioned my nephew loved astronomy. It was such a small gesture for someone with his resources, but it meant the world to us. But then there was Victoria Ashford, his fiancée. Victoria was Manhattan royalty, old money mixed with new fame. She'd been a model, then a lifestyle influencer, and now she sat on various charity boards looking perfect for every camera. With Marcus, they were the golden couple. Every magazine wanted their photos. Every society page tracked their wedding plans. They looked like they'd stepped out of a fairy tale. Behind closed doors, though, Victoria was someone else entirely. I watched her reduce our head chef to tears because a sauce was slightly too thick. I saw her make the junior housekeeper repolish the same marble floors 6 times because she insisted she could see a streak. Her tone when speaking to staff was always laced with disdain, like we were cockroaches she had to tolerate in her perfect world. The other staff members warned me constantly. "Avoid her at all costs," they'd whisper.
If she walks into a room, find somewhere else to be. If she speaks to you, keep your answers short and your eyes down. And above all, Emma, don't mess up anything when she's around." I followed their advice religiously. I kept my distance. But I also started noticing something that made my stomach twist uncomfortably. I noticed the way that Marcus would sometimes watch me. Not in a predatory way, never that, but with a kind of curiosity, a softness that seemed out of place for an employer observing their staff. He'd ask how Tyler was doing, remembering details from conversations weeks earlier. When I mentioned Tyler had been sick, Marcus checked in the next day to see if he was better. These were tiny interactions, meaningless in the grand scheme of things, but Victoria noticed them too. I started catching her staring at me with cold calculation in her eyes. Her perfect facade would crack just slightly, revealing something venomous underneath. It made me intensely uncomfortable, so I began avoiding any interaction with Marcus whatsoever. I couldn't afford to lose this job. Tyler's next treatment was coming up, and the insurance through this position was the only thing standing between us and financial ruin. Then came the announcement about the charity gala. Marcus was hosting a massive fundraiser for pediatric cancer research. Ironic, considering I was drowning trying to pay for my own nephew's medical care. But I wasn't bitter. I was just grateful to have steady employment. What I didn't know was that this gala would become the night that changed absolutely everything. And it would start with champagne, a white dress, and Victoria's perfect manicured hand wrapped in my hair.
Want to know what happened when that bathroom door slammed shut? The week before the gala felt like preparing for a royal wedding. Victoria was at the penthouse every single day, micromanaging every microscopic detail. The floral arrangements weren't dramatic enough, the caterer's proposals were pedestrian, the lighting designer's concepts made her look washed out. Nothing satisfied her, and she took out her frustration on everyone around her. I watched the tension building in the household like a storm gathering on the horizon. The other staff members moved through the apartment like they were walking on eggshells. Even Marcus seemed exhausted by Victoria's demands, though he never complained. He'd just disappear into his study for hours, leaving Victoria to terrorize the rest of us. On the day of the gala, I was assigned to serve beverages during the early arrival period. Important guests were coming before the main event for a private viewing of Marcus's art collection. Everything had to be absolutely perfect. I was carrying a silver tray with crystal champagne flutes through the gallery hallway when it happened. Victoria came around the corner abruptly, her phone pressed to her ear, gesticulating wildly while arguing with someone about the placement of the step and repeat banner. I tried to step aside, but she moved directly into my path. The tray tilted, just slightly, but it was enough. Golden champagne splashed across the front of her white Valentino gown. Not a lot, maybe a few ounces, but on that pristine white fabric, it looked like I'd thrown acid. Time seemed to slow down. I watched the liquid seep into the expensive material, and my heart stopped. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," I gasped, immediately setting down the tray. "Miss Ashford, I didn't see you. It was an accident, I swear. Please, let me help." Victoria's face transformed. Her beauty pageant smile melted away, revealing something ugly and cruel underneath. Her eyes blazed with rage that seemed completely disproportionate to the accident. "You clumsy, incompetent idiot," she screamed. "Do you have any idea what this dress costs? More than you make in a year." Every person in the hallway froze. Staff members stood paralyzed. Even a few early arriving guests stopped to stare. My face burned with humiliation. "I'm so sorry," I stammered. "It was an accident, I swear. Let me—" "Shut your mouth," Victoria shrieked, and then, before I could even process what was happening, her hand shot out and grabbed a fistful of my hair. Pain exploded across my scalp. She yanked me forward violently, and I cried out, but she didn't care. She dragged me down the hallway by my hair like I was a disobedient dog. I stumbled, trying to keep my footing as she hauled me along. My eyes watered from the pain. I could hear gasps from the other staff members, but nobody moved to help me. Nobody dared. Victoria dragged me into the nearest bathroom and slammed the door behind us.
The lock clicked with a sound that made my heart sink. We were alone. She finally released my hair, shoving me backward. I caught myself on the marble sink, breathing hard. My scalp was throbbing. I could feel strands of hair still wrapped around her fingers. "You did that on purpose," Victoria hissed, her face inches from mine. "Don't think I don't see what you're doing. Playing the innocent victim, batting your eyes at Marcus. You think a man like him would ever look twice at someone like you? You're just the help." "I don't know what you're talking about," I whispered, my voice shaking. "It was an accident, I swear to God, it was—" The slap came out of nowhere. Her palm cracked across my face with a sound that echoed off the marble walls. My head snapped to the side. I tasted blood where my teeth cut into my inner cheek. Tears spilled down my face, partly from the pain, but mostly from the sheer degradation of it all. "Get on your knees," Victoria commanded, her voice low and venomous. "What?" I looked at her in disbelief. "I said get on your knees and apologize properly. Beg me for forgiveness, or I will personally destroy you. I'll make sure you never work in this city again. I'll make sure that little brat you're raising ends up in foster care where it belongs." My blood turned to ice. She knew about Tyler. Of course she did. She'd probably had me investigated the moment she'd noticed Marcus being kind to me. I felt sick. I needed this job. I needed the insurance. Tyler's specialist appointment was next week. His medications cost a fortune. What choice did I have? What choice had I ever had? With trembling legs, I started to lower myself to the cold tile floor. Tears streamed down my face. I'd never felt so small, so powerless, so completely worthless in my entire life. This was what my life had become. This was the price I had to pay to keep Tyler safe and healthy. But then, the bathroom door suddenly flew open. I looked up, still halfway to the floor, and there stood Marcus. His face was pale, his jaw was clenched so tight I could see the muscle jumping. His eyes moved from me, kneeling with tears streaming down my face and a red handprint on my cheek, to Victoria, who stood frozen with shock. The expression on Marcus's face was something I'd never seen before. Fury, but cold fury, controlled and precise. "Marcus," Victoria started, her voice immediately shifting to something sweet and innocent. "Thank God you're here. This clumsy girl ruined my dress and then became completely hysterical. I was just trying to calm her down and—" "I heard everything," Marcus said quietly. The revelation that would destroy Victoria's perfect facade was about to unfold. What had Marcus heard? How long had he been standing outside that door?
Victoria's face drained of all color. "You what?" Marcus stepped fully into the bathroom, his presence filling the small space with barely contained rage. "I said I heard everything. Every single word you said to her." I was still crouched near the floor, frozen in place, unable to fully process what was happening. My cheek was throbbing where Victoria had struck me. My scalp ached from where she'd dragged me by my hair. But now Marcus was here, and the entire dynamic had shifted in a way I didn't understand. "I came home early from the office," Marcus continued, his voice eerily calm. "I was heading to my study when I heard shouting. I heard you drag Emma in here. I've been standing outside that door for the past 5 minutes listening to every vile thing you said. I heard you threaten her nephew, a child with medical problems, and try to force her to beg for your forgiveness. What kind of person does that, Victoria?" His voice cracked slightly on the last words, and I realized this wasn't just anger, it was disappointment, devastation, the destruction of an illusion. "I don't know who you really are, Victoria, but you're not the woman I thought I was going to marry." He reached for Victoria's left hand. She realized what he was doing and tried to pull away, but his grip was firm. He slid the enormous diamond engagement ring off her finger, his mother's ring, I'd heard him mention once, the Ashford family heirloom that had been featured in all those magazine spreads about their upcoming society wedding. "We're done," Marcus said quietly. "Pack your things and leave my house." Victoria's perfect facade shattered completely. You're going to throw away everything we have for a maid? A nobody? Are you insane? Do you have any idea what this will do to your reputation? To your business? My family has connections that could... I'm throwing away what we have because you're cruel, because you abuse people who can't defend themselves, because you're not who I thought you were. The truth is that simple. He pulled his phone from his pocket and pressed a button. Security, please come to the guest bathroom on the 3rd floor. Ms. Ashford will be leaving the property immediately. Victoria looked between Marcus and me, her expression twisting with rage and humiliation. "You'll regret this," she hissed. "I'll ruin you. I'll tell everyone you cheated on me with the help. I'll..." "Tell them whatever you want," Marcus said tiredly. "The truth is on my side, and so are the dozen staff members who witnessed what you just did, including the security cameras in the hallway that captured you dragging Emma by her hair." 2 security guards appeared in the doorway. Victoria looked at them, then back at Marcus, and for a moment I saw genuine fear in her eyes. She wasn't used to consequences. She'd probably never been told no in her privileged life. "This isn't over," she said, but the threat sounded hollow now. "Yes, it is," Marcus replied. The security guards gently but firmly guided Victoria out of the bathroom. Her protests and threats echoed down the hallway, growing fainter until they finally disappeared completely. And then there was silence. Marcus turned back to me. "Emma, I am so sorry. I should have listened when my staff tried to tell me about her behavior. I was blind. Please, let me take you to the hospital to get checked out." "I'm fine," I whispered, though my face was throbbing and my scalp still ached. "Really, I need to get back to work. The gala." "The gala can wait," Marcus said firmly. "You're more important than any event. Come on." He insisted on driving me to the emergency room himself. As we left the penthouse, I could see the other staff members watching with wide eyes, probably unable to believe what they'd just witnessed. The king of New York society had just thrown his queen off the throne. For me, for someone who cleaned his floors and served his drinks. I couldn't process it, any of it. My mind was spinning with shock and confusion and fear about what would come next. But what Marcus did in the following days, that would shock me even more. The aftermath of Victoria's removal would reveal Marcus's true character and set in motion events that would transform not just my life, but Tyler's future. The emergency room doctor confirmed I had bruising and a minor concussion from the way Victoria had jerked my head around, but nothing requiring hospitalization. The entire time, Marcus stayed in the waiting room, making phone calls to postpone the gala and dealing with what I could only imagine was a public relations nightmare. When the doctor discharged me with instructions to rest for a few days, Marcus was right there. "Come on," he said gently. "I'm taking you home." "I can take a cab," I protested weakly. "You've already done so much, and you have the gala to—" "The gala is postponed indefinitely," Marcus said, "and I'm not letting you take a cab. Besides, I'd like to meet Tyler, if that's okay." My heart skipped. "You want to meet Tyler?" "I've been hearing about him for months," Marcus said with a slight smile. "The kid who loves astronomy and wants to be an astrophysicist. I'd like to put a face to the name." The drive to my modest apartment in Queens was quiet. I was acutely aware of the difference between my world and his. When we pulled up to my building, a worn brick structure with peeling paint around the windows, I felt a flush of embarrassment. But Marcus didn't seem to notice. He just parked and followed me up the 3 flights of stairs to my apartment. My neighbor, Mrs. Chen, had been watching Tyler. She opened the door with Tyler peeking around her legs, and his face lit up when he saw me. "Emma!" He ran to me, and I hugged him tight, wincing slightly at the pain in my scalp, but not letting go. "Hey, buddy," I said, fighting back tears. "Sorry I'm late." Tyler pulled back, and his eyes widened when he saw the bruise on my face. "What happened? Are you okay? Just a little accident at work, I said quickly. I'm fine, I promise. That's when Tyler noticed Marcus standing in the doorway. Who are you? He asked, with the blunt curiosity of a 7-year-old. I'm Marcus, he said, crouching down to Tyler's level. I work with Emma. You must be Tyler. She tells me you're into astronomy? Tyler's eyes lit up. I want to study black holes when I grow up. Did you know that if you fell into a black hole, from the outside it would look like you're frozen in time, but you'd actually be stretched into spaghetti? Marcus laughed, a genuine, warm laugh I'd rarely heard from him. Spaghettification, that's a real term. You know your stuff. They talked about space for several minutes while I paid Mrs. Chen and thanked her for watching Tyler. When she left, Marcus turned to me with a serious expression. Emma, I need to talk to you about something. Would you mind if we'd sat down? My stomach knotted with worry. Was he going to fire me after all? This would be the easiest way to avoid the drama of the Victoria situation. Just let me go quietly. We sat at my small kitchen table while Tyler played in the living room. Marcus pulled out his phone and showed me something. This is the security footage from this afternoon. I watched, horrified all over again, as the video showed Victoria grabbing my hair and dragging me down the hallway. It looked even worse from the camera angle than it had felt in the moment. I've already sent this to my attorneys, Marcus said. Victoria is threatening to sue me for breach of promise and to spread false stories about us. This footage will protect both of us, but that's not what I wanted to talk to you about. He paused, seeming to gather his thoughts. When I heard Victoria threaten Tyler, something clicked for me. I've known for a while that you were struggling with medical expenses. I should have offered to help before, but I didn't want to overstep. But now, after what happened today, Emma, I want to cover all of Tyler's medical expenses, not as a loan, not as something you need to repay, just as an apology for what you endured today. I stared at him, unable to speak. Tears welled up in my eyes. I can't accept that, I finally whispered. It's too much. His treatment costs. I know exactly what it costs, Marcus said gently. I had my assistant look into it. It's a substantial amount, but Emma, I'm a billionaire. This won't impact my life in any way, except to make it better, knowing that Tyler gets the care he needs, and you don't have to choose between his health and putting food on the table. The tears spilled over. I couldn't stop them. Why are you doing this? I asked. I'm just your employee. I'm nobody. You're not nobody, Marcus said firmly. You're a person who works incredibly hard, who loves her nephew more than anything, who was willing to kneel on a bathroom floor to keep him safe. You're someone who deserves help, and if I can give it, why wouldn't I? I covered my face with my hands, sobbing. 2 years of crushing pressure, of constant fear, of making impossible choices, all of it came pouring out. Marcus didn't say anything. He just sat there quietly, letting me cry. When I finally got control of myself, I looked up at him. Thank you, I whispered. You have no idea what this means. I think I have some idea, Marcus said softly. He stood up. I'm giving you paid leave for the rest of the week to recover. Take care of yourself and Tyler. And Emma, when you come back, I want to talk about some changes in the household. What happened today exposed some serious issues in how I've been running things. I want to make sure my staff feels safe and valued. After he left, I sat at my kitchen table in stunned silence. Tyler came over and hugged me. I like your boss, he said. He's nice. Yeah, I said, hugging him back. Yeah, he really is. What I didn't know was that in the coming months, Marcus's kindness would evolve into something neither of us expected. But first, Victoria had one more card to play.
Victoria wasn't going to go down without a fight. Her revenge plot and the media storm that followed would test everything Marcus and I were building. 3 days after the incident, I was home with Tyler when my phone started buzzing incessantly. Text messages from people I hadn't heard from in years, missed calls from unknown numbers. When I finally checked the news, my heart stopped. The headlines screamed across every tabloid website. Billionaire Marcus Sullivan dumps socialite fiancé for household staff member. There was a photo. Somehow Victoria had gotten a picture of Marcus and me leaving the emergency room together. In the image, his hand was on my back, guiding me toward his car. It looked intimate. It looked damning. And the story Victoria had sold to the press was a masterpiece of manipulation. According to her narrative, I'd been seducing Marcus for months. The champagne incident had been my deliberate attempt to get his attention. When she'd confronted me about my inappropriate behavior, Marcus had taken my side because we'd been having an affair all along. She was the victim, the heartbroken fiancée betrayed by her own household staff. The comments sections were vicious. People called me a gold digger, a homewrecker, far worse names I won't repeat. Some suggested I'd used Tyler as a sympathy ploy to trap a wealthy man. The cruelty was breathtaking. I called Marcus in a panic. "Have you seen what they're saying? This is a nightmare. I should resign. I should—" "Emma, breathe," Marcus said calmly. "I've seen it. My attorneys are already drafting a response. We have the security footage. We have statements from the staff who witnessed what happened. Victoria's lies won't hold up." "But what about your reputation, your business? This could hurt Sullivan Technologies, the board of directors." "The board already knows the truth," Marcus interrupted. "I briefed them immediately. And as for my reputation, I'd rather be known for standing up against abuse than for staying silent to protect a lie. Don't resign, Emma, please. That's exactly what Victoria wants." But the pressure kept building. Photographers camped outside my apartment building. Reporters called my phone constantly. Someone even tried to interview Tyler at his school, which sent me into a protective rage that had me calling the principal and threatening legal action. Through it all, Marcus remained steady. He held a press conference showing the security footage with my face blurred for privacy, explaining exactly what happened. He released statements from staff members who had experienced Victoria's abuse. His lawyers delivered a cease and desist letter that made it clear any further false statements would result in a defamation lawsuit. Slowly, the narrative began to shift. Victoria's carefully constructed image started crumbling as more stories emerged. A former assistant came forward about the emotional abuse she'd suffered. A charity organization revealed that Victoria had claimed credit for donations she'd never actually made. Other socialites, sensing which way the wind was blowing, quietly distanced themselves from her. 2 weeks after the initial story broke, Victoria's attorney called Marcus's attorney to negotiate a settlement. In exchange for dropping her lawsuit and signing a comprehensive non-disclosure agreement, Marcus agreed to not pursue criminal charges for assault. Victoria would retreat from public life, her reputation in tatters, but her freedom intact. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I felt exhausted and strangely sad. Despite everything Victoria had done, watching someone's entire life collapse was difficult to witness. The day the settlement was finalized, Marcus called a meeting with all his household staff. We gathered in the main living room, 15 of us, from the chef to the housekeepers to the security team. Marcus stood before us, and for the first time since I'd known him, he looked genuinely vulnerable. "I owe you all an apology," he began. "For months, Victoria abused her position in this household. She mistreated you, disrespected you, and created an environment of fear. And I didn't see it. Or worse, I saw it and didn't believe it was as serious as you tried to tell me." He looked around the room, making eye contact with each person. "You're focused on my work, so caught up in maintaining my relationship with her that I failed in my responsibility to you. This is your workplace. You should feel safe here, respected here, and I let you down." There was a long silence. Then Rosa, the head housekeeper, who'd been with Marcus for 12 years, spoke up. "Mr. Sullivan, you did see it. When it mattered most, you acted. Not everyone would do that. It shouldn't have taken Emma being assaulted for me to act, Marcus said quietly. Moving forward, things are going to change. I'm implementing a formal HR system with an independent third party where anyone can report concerns anonymously. I'm increasing everyone's salary by 20%, effective immediately, because I've realized I haven't adequately compensated you for dealing with the extra stress Victoria created. And I'm setting up an employee assistance program that includes mental health support, legal aid, and emergency financial assistance if anyone needs it. I watched my coworkers' faces as they processed this. Tears welled up in several eyes. James, one of the security guards, cleared his throat. "Sir, that's incredibly generous." "It's not generous," Marcus corrected. "It's what I should have been providing all along." After the meeting, Marcus asked me to stay behind. When everyone else had left, he turned to me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "How are you holding up, really?" "I'm managing," I honestly said. "Tyler's been great through all of this. He's too young to really understand what happened, which is a blessing." "And his next treatment? Everything scheduled?" "Yes, next week. And Marcus, I still can't believe you're covering it. I don't know how I'll ever repay you." "You don't need to repay me, Emma. That's not how this works." He paused, seeming to wrestle with something. "Can I ask you something personal?" My heart rate picked up. "Of course." "Would you be comfortable having coffee with me sometime? Not as employee and employee, just as people. I'd like to get to know you better. The real you, not just the professional version who keeps my home running perfectly." I stared at him, stunned. "Are you asking me out?" "I'm asking if you'd be willing to have a conversation with me outside of work. I know the power dynamic here is complicated. I know that after everything with Victoria, this might seem inappropriate or uncomfortable. If you say no, nothing changes. Your job is secure. Tyler's medical care is secure. I'm not trying to pressure you, but I'd be lying if I didn't say I wasn't interested in knowing you better."
Emma's answer would set the course for everything that followed. But accepting Marcus's invitation meant stepping into a relationship that would face scrutiny, judgment, and challenges neither of them anticipated. I took 3 days to think about Marcus's invitation. 3 days of weighing the risks against the flutter of excitement in my chest that I was trying desperately to ignore. 3 days of asking myself if I was making the biggest mistake of my life or taking the first step towards something extraordinary. Mrs. Chen, my neighbor, gave me the advice that finally made up my mind. "Emma," she said over tea while Tyler was at school, "I've known you since you moved in with that boy. I've watched you work yourself to the bone, sacrifice everything, never take a single moment for yourself. This man sounds like he respects you. He stood up for you when it mattered. What's the harm in coffee?" "What's the harm in coffee?" I texted Marcus that evening. "I'd like to have that coffee. How about Saturday afternoon?" His response came within seconds. "Perfect. There's a quiet cafe in Central Park I think you'll like. 2 p.m.? Saturday morning, I changed my outfit 4 times before settling on simple jeans and a sweater. Tyler, watching this performance with the amused expression of a child who's wiser than his years, said, "You look nervous. Is this a date?" "It's just coffee," I said, but my reflection in the mirror betrayed the truth. This felt more than just coffee. The cafe Marcus had chosen was tucked away in a corner of Central Park I'd never visited. It was the kind of place wealthy New Yorkers went to pretend they weren't wealthy. Rustic wooden tables, mismatched vintage chairs, baristas with artfully messy hair. Marcus was already there when I arrived, wearing jeans and a casual button-down shirt. I'd never seen him in anything but suits before. He looked younger, more approachable, and devastatingly handsome in a way that made my breath catch. "Emma," he said, standing as I approached, "thank you for coming. What can I get you?" We ordered coffee and found a table in the back corner away from the other patrons. For a few minutes, we sat in slightly awkward silence.
both of us seeming unsure how to begin now that the formal boundaries of employer and employee were temporarily dissolved. "So," Marcus finally said with a self-deprecating smile, "this is weird, right?" I laughed, tension breaking. "So weird. I keep wanting to ask if you need anything or if I should adjust the temperature." "Please don't," he said. "I get enough of that at work. I wanted to talk to Emma the person, not Emma who manages my household." "Okay, then tell me something about Marcus the person that I don't know, something that's not in Forbes or Business Insider." He thought a moment. "I'm terrified of deep water. Can't explain it. I've done therapy, tried exposure exercises, the whole thing, but put me on a boat over deep ocean and I have a panic attack." "Really? The fearless CEO who takes on corporate raiders and negotiates billion-dollar deals is afraid of the ocean?" "Irrationally, completely afraid," he confirmed, which is embarrassing to admit, but there it is. "Your turn. Tell me something I don't know about you." I considered. I wanted to be a writer when I was younger. Fiction, specifically. I used to write these elaborate fantasy stories about women who went on adventures and saved kingdoms. Then life happened, and practical concerns took over, and I haven't written anything creative in years. "Do you miss it?" Marcus asked. I admitted. "Every day. There's this whole world inside my head that never makes it onto paper anymore. But when Tyler needs new shoes and the electricity bill is due, creative writing feels like an indulgence I can't afford." "What if you could afford it? What if the practical concerns were handled and you had time and space to write?" "That's a nice fantasy, but it's not reality." "Reality can change," Marcus said. He reached across the table and very carefully took my hand. "Emma, I want to be honest with you about something. I've been interested in you for months, long before the Victoria situation, but I never acted on it because I thought I was in a committed relationship and because I knew the power dynamic would make any approach inappropriate." My heart was pounding. "Marcus?" "Let me finish," he said gently. "I'm not expecting anything from you. I'm not asking you to feel the same way, but I wanted you to know that when I asked you to coffee, it wasn't just to be nice. It's because I've spent months watching you juggle impossible responsibilities with grace and strength, and I think you're remarkable. I think I could fall in love with you very easily. Maybe I already have." I sat there stunned, my hand still in his. "You barely know me," I finally whispered. "I know that you read bedtime stories to Tyler over the phone during your break because you hate missing his routine. I know that you leave post-it notes with encouraging messages for the younger staff members. I know that you've memorized my schedule better than I have, not because it's your job, because you care about things running smoothly for everyone. I know that you take your coffee black because you think adding milk and sugar is wasteful, but when no one's looking, you add 3 sugars. I know that you hum while you work, usually old jazz standards your mother used to play. I know 100 small things that paint a picture of someone extraordinary." Tears welled in my eyes. "You've been paying attention." "Of course I have. The question is, do you want me to keep paying attention? Not as your employer, but as someone who cares about you." I looked at our joined hands on the table. This was crazy. This violated every boundary, every rule about workplace relationships and power dynamics. This could blow up in both our faces. Victoria's accusations might become a self-fulfilling prophecy. The staff might think I'd manipulated the situation. The media would have a field day if they found out. But when I looked up into Marcus's eyes, I saw something that made all those concerns feel distant and manageable. I saw genuine care, respect, and hope. "Yes," I whispered. "Yes, I want you to keep paying attention." The smile that broke across his face was like sunrise. "Yeah? Yeah," I said, laughing through my tears. "But we need to be careful. We need to go slow. And if this doesn't work, if it gets too complicated, I can't lose my job. Tyler needs—" "Your job is secure regardless. I promise you that. Whatever happens between us personally won't affect your employment or Tyler's medical coverage. I'll put that in writing if you need me to." We stayed at that cafe for 4 hours, talking about everything and nothing. He told me about growing up as the only child of a single mother who'd worked 3 jobs to put him through school. I told him about my sister Rachel, about the phone call that changed my life, about Tyler's first night in my apartment when he'd cried himself to sleep clutching a photo of his parents. We discovered we both loved old movies, terrible puns, and hiking trails, although Marcus admitted he preferred mountains to beaches, given his water phobia. We argued good-naturedly over whether Chicago-style or New York-style pizza was superior. We laughed until my sides hurt over his story about accidentally disrupting a board meeting by sitting on his reading glasses. When we finally left the cafe, the sun was setting. Marcus walked me to my subway station. "Can I see you again? Maybe dinner next time?" "I'd like that, but maybe we keep this quiet for a while, just until we figure out what this is." "Of course," Marcus agreed, "though I should mention my head of security already knows I was meeting you today. I had to tell him so he wouldn't worry when I disappeared for hours, but he's discreet and he won't say anything." We stood there for a moment at the top of the subway stairs, and then Marcus leaned down and kissed my cheek. "Thank you for giving me a chance," he whispered. I walked down those stairs feeling like I was floating. But as I rode the train home, reality began creeping back in. What was I doing? Was I setting myself up for heartbreak? Could something real grow between a billionaire and a single mother who could barely pay rent? I didn't have answers, but for the first time in 2 years, I felt something other than fear and exhaustion. I felt hope.
Over the next 2 months, Emma and Marcus's relationship deepened in secret. But keeping their romance hidden would prove harder than they anticipated. And when the truth finally came out, the reaction from the staff would surprise them both. The challenges of a secret relationship, and the moment everything changed. Keeping our relationship secret was like living a double life. At work, I remained professional Emma, efficient, polished, invisible. I brought Marcus's morning coffee, managed his calendar, coordinated with the other staff members. We barely made eye contact during work hours, and when we did speak, it was only about household matters. But after hours, everything changed. Marcus would text me when the apartment was empty, and I'd slip back upstairs. We'd cook dinner together in his massive kitchen, laughing as he proved that despite employing a professional chef, he could barely make scrambled eggs. We'd watch movies curled up on his sofa, and he'd tell me about the business deals that kept him up at night, while I shared stories about Tyler's latest science project, or his questions about whether his parents were watching them from heaven. Sometimes Marcus would come to my apartment in Queens after Tyler was asleep. We'd sit on my tiny balcony, sharing a bottle of wine and talking until 2 a.m. about dreams and fears and the strange path that had brought us together. He never complained about my cramped apartment or my secondhand furniture. He seemed more relaxed there than in his penthouse, like he could finally stop being Marcus Sullivan, billionaire CEO, and just be Marcus. One evening, about 6 weeks into our secret relationship, Tyler woke up when Marcus was there. I heard his bedroom door open and quickly composed myself, expecting awkwardness. But Tyler just shuffled into the living room, rubbing his eyes, and climbed directly into Marcus's lap. "Bad dream?" mumbled Tyler. Marcus looked at me, uncertain, and I nodded. He wrapped his arms around Tyler carefully, and Tyler settled against his chest with the trust of a child who'd already decided this man was safe. "Want to talk about it?" Marcus asked softly. "Space monster ate the moon. But then I remembered black holes don't have mouths, so it didn't make science sense, and I woke up." Marcus laughed quietly. "Even in your nightmares, you're fact-checking the physics. That's impressive." They sat there for a few minutes until Tyler's breathing evened out into sleep. Marcus carried him back to bed like he'd done it 100 times before, tucking the covers around him with surprising gentleness. When he came back to the living room, there were tears in his eyes. "Emma," he said quietly,
I need to tell you something." My heart dropped. This was it. The moment he'd say this was too complicated, that dating a single mother wasn't what he'd signed up for, that we should end it before it went any further. "I think I'm in love with you," Marcus said instead. "Not the version of you that works for me. You, the person who saves Post-it notes because they might still be useful. You who cries at animated movies but pretends you're not. You who is raising an incredible kid despite impossible circumstances. I love you, Emma, and I'm falling in love with Tyler, too." I crossed the small living room and kissed him, pouring 2 months of hidden feelings into it. "I love you, too," I whispered against his lips. "I've been terrified to say it, but I do. I love you so much it scares me." "Why does it scare you?" Marcus asked, pulling back to look at me. "Because I have so much to lose," I said honestly. "Because Tyler could get attached and then heartbroken if this doesn't work out. Because every time I let myself be happy, I remember that happiness can be taken away in an instant. My sister thought she had her whole life ahead of her, and then she was gone. How do I trust that this is real and lasting?" Marcus took my face in his hands. "You can't. Neither can I. That's the terrifying thing about love. There are no guarantees. But Emma, I can promise you that I'm not going anywhere unless you ask me to leave. I can promise you that I'll do everything in my power to take care of you and Tyler. And I can promise you that I want to stop hiding this." "What do you mean?" I asked. "I want to tell the staff about us," Marcus said. "I want to take you and Tyler to dinner without worrying about who might see us. I want to introduce you as my girlfriend, not my employee. I'm tired of pretending I don't care about you in front of other people." Fear shot through me. "Marcus, the staff will think I manipulated you. They'll think I used the Victoria situation to—" "The staff already knows," a voice said at the doorway. I spun around to find Tyler standing there, no longer sleepy at all, grinning like he knew the world's best secret. "Tyler, you're supposed to be—" "Not Tyler," another voice said, and my heart stopped as Rosa appeared behind him with 3 other household staff. I felt the blood drain from my face. "What are you—" Rosa held up her hand. "Before you panic, we're not here to cause problems. May we come in?" Marcus and I exchanged glances, and he nodded. They filed into my small apartment, and I suddenly saw it through their eyes, proof that Marcus had been spending time here, in this modest space so different from his penthouse. "How long have you known?" Marcus asked quietly. James, the head of security, spoke up. "About 5 weeks, sir. You're not as subtle as you think. The text messages, the way you both disappear at the same times, the fact that Emma started wearing a necklace that matches a jewelry purchase you made from Tiffany's 3 weeks ago." I touched the delicate gold chain at my throat self-consciously. Marcus had given it to me, claiming it was something he'd found in a drawer, but I'd suspected that was a lie to make me comfortable accepting it. "Are you going to report this?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Report it?" Rosa looked offended. "Emma, we came here to tell you that we support you, both of you." "You do?" I couldn't quite believe it. "After what you went through with Victoria, after what Mr. Sullivan did to protect you, anyone with eyes could see something was developing, and honestly, we're happy about it. Mr. Sullivan has been different these past 2 months, lighter, more present, and you, Emma, you smile now, really smile, not that polite work smile. You both deserve happiness." But the power dynamic, the concern that Emma might feel pressured, or is Emma here of her own free will? Does she have financial security regardless of this relationship's outcome? Has Mr. Sullivan done anything to make her feel trapped or coerced? "No," I said firmly, "never. He's been incredibly careful to make sure I feel safe and independent." "Then there's your answer," Rosa said. "You're 2 adults who care about each other. Yes, there's a power imbalance in your professional relationship, but Mr. Sullivan has addressed that by guaranteeing Emma's job security and Tyler's medical care regardless of what happens personally. That's more ethical consideration than most relationships in this city." The staff's blessing was unexpected. but going public with their relationship would mean facing the outside world's judgment. Next reveals the consequences of stepping into the light and a moment that would test their commitment to each other.
2 weeks after the staff's surprise visit, Marcus and I decided it was time to go public with our relationship. Not in a tabloid-feeding way, but quietly and honestly. Marcus held a brief meeting with the household staff, officially informing them that he and I were dating and outlining the professional boundaries we'd maintain to ensure appropriate workplace dynamics. He'd consulted with HR lawyers to establish clear protocols. I would no longer report directly to him, but to a household manager he'd hire. My compensation and employment terms would be reviewed by an independent third party. We'd never discuss household matters during our personal time. These weren't just words. Marcus had documentation drawn up making everything official and protecting me from any accusation of impropriety. The staff were supportive, though I caught a few speculative glances. Rosa bowled me aside after the meeting. "You know people are going to talk," she warned gently. "Not just here, but out there. The media is going to find out eventually." "I know," I said, "but I'm tired of hiding, and Tyler's starting to ask questions about why Marcus visits, but I pretend he's just a friend." Rosa smiled. "That boy's too smart for his own good. Just be prepared, Emma. When the story breaks, it's going to get ugly before it gets better." She was right. The news broke when a photographer caught Marcus, Tyler, and me at the Central Park Zoo. It was supposed to be a simple Saturday outing. Tyler had been begging to see the snow leopards for weeks. We'd thought we were being careful, staying away from Manhattan's hotspots. But someone recognized Marcus, took a photo, and within hours, the internet exploded. Billionaire Marcus Sullivan dating former employee, romance or scandal? Gold digger or genuine? Inside Marcus Sullivan's controversial new relationship. From Maid to Millionaire, Emma Parker's Cinderella story raises questions. The comments were vicious. People called me every degrading name imaginable. They speculated that I planned the entire Victoria incident to manipulate my way into Marcus's life. Someone found my financial records, I still don't know how, and published them online using my debt as proof that I was a gold digger. There were even cruel comments about Tyler, suggesting I was using a sick child as leverage to trap a wealthy man. I wanted to hide. I wanted to quit my job, take Tyler, and disappear to another city where no one knew us, but Marcus wouldn't let me retreat. "We knew this was coming," he said, holding me while I cried over the latest round of online attacks. "We prepared for it, and Emma, the truth is on our side. People who matter, people who know us understand what's real." "But Tyler's school is asking questions. Other parents are looking at me differently. Someone left a note on my car calling me a prostitute. How is this worth it?" Marcus pulled back to look at me. "Is that a real question? Are you asking if you're worth the trouble?" "I don't know," maybe I admitted. "Maybe Victoria was right. Maybe I'm nobody pretending to be somebody. Maybe—" "Stop," Marcus said firmly. "Emma, listen to me. You are not nobody. You're a woman who sacrificed everything for her nephew. You're someone who works harder than anyone I know. You're kind, brilliant, strong, and real in a world full of fake people. Victoria wasn't right about anything. The trolls online aren't right. They don't know you. I know you. Tyler knows you. The people in our lives who matter know you." "But your reputation," I started. "My reputation will survive, and honestly, I don't care if it doesn't. I'd rather be known as the man who chose love over image than the man who let the best thing in his life walk away because of public opinion." That night, Marcus did something that shocked me. He posted a statement on his personal social media accounts that had millions of followers. It wasn't written by a PR team. It was raw, honest, and undisputably him. I've never been one to address rumors, but recent stories have crossed the line. Emma Parker is not a gold digger, a manipulator, or any other degrading term people are using.
She's the kindest, most genuine person I've ever met. Yes, she worked for me. Yes, there's a financial disparity between us, but none of that changes the fact that I love her and she makes me a better person. For those concerned about power dynamics, I've established professional protocols reviewed by employment lawyers. Anna has financial security and legal protections regardless of our personal relationship. She's free to leave me at any time without professional or financial consequences. For those attacking her son, Tyler is a 7-year-old child fighting a medical condition. He deserves privacy and compassion, not your cruel speculation. Anyone who attacks a child to score points against adults should be ashamed. I'm closing comments on this post because I'm not interested in debate. I'm simply stating facts. I love Emma. She loves me. That's all anyone needs to know. Respect our privacy or unfollow me. I won't lose sleep over which you choose. The post went viral. Within an hour, it had been shared hundreds of thousands of times. The reaction was split. Some people praised Marcus for standing up for us, while others doubled down on their criticism. But something shifted. Major media outlets started covering the story with more nuance. A few journalists actually investigated the timeline and Victoria's history, publishing pieces that questioned the gold digger narrative. More importantly, people in Marcus's life started speaking up. His business partners, his friends, even his company's board of members issued statements supporting him. The CEO of a rival tech firm posted, "I've known Marcus Sullivan for 15 years. If he says Emma Parker is genuine, I believe him. The man's judgment built a billion-dollar company, maybe trusted in his personal life too." Even some of Victoria's former friends broke ranks, sharing their own stories of her cruelty and manipulation. The narrative was slowly turning, though the damage had been done. I still received hateful messages. Tyler's school still had parents who whispered and stared. But the viciousness started to ebb, replaced by a cautious curiosity. One evening, about 3 weeks into the media storm, Marcus came to my apartment with Tyler's favorite takeout and a serious expression. "I need to talk to you about something," he said, after Tyler had gone to bed. My stomach dropped. "Are you ending this?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Because the pressure is too much. If your business is suffering, I understand. I don't want to be the reason your life falls apart." "What? No. Emma Howe is absolutely not what I'm saying. I'm asking you to move in with me."
The invitation to move in would force Emma to confront her deepest fears about dependence, power, and whether she could truly trust happiness. "Move in with you?" I repeated, certain I'd misheard. "Marcus, we've only been officially together for 3 months. That's way too fast." "Is it?" Marcus sat down on my worn couch, pulling me down beside him. "Emma, we've known each other for almost a year. We've been through more in that time than most couples experience in years. And practically speaking, you're at the penthouse most days anyway for work. Tyler could have his own room, a space 3 times the size of what he has now. He could have a view of the park. You could have your own office to write in. We'd be together instead of constantly coordinating schedules to steal moments alone." "That's not how this works," I said, shaking my head. "People don't move in together just for convenience." "You're right," Marcus said, "but I'm not asking for convenience. I'm asking because I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want to have breakfast with Tyler before he goes to school. I want to come home from work and know you're there, not across the city worrying about whether you'll make rent this month. I want us to be a family, Emma. In practice, not just in feeling." "Tyler's rent is not an issue anymore," I pointed out. "You're covering his medical expenses, and with my salary, I can manage everything else. I don't need to be rescued." "I know you don't need rescuing," Marcus gently said. "That's one of the things I love about you, your independence, your strength. I'm not asking you to give those up. I'm asking if you want to build something together. There's a difference." I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the street below. A group of teenagers was gathered on the corner, laughing at something on one of their phones. Life going on, normal and uncomplicated. "What happens when this doesn't work out?" I asked quietly. What happens when you realize I don't fit into your world, or when you get tired of the baggage I come with, or when some other crisis makes you see that I'm more trouble than I'm worth? Emma, look at me. Marcus came to stand behind me, his hands gentle on my shoulders. Do you think I haven't considered all of that? Do you think I jumped into this without understanding what I was asking for? I know your world and mine are different. I know you come with responsibilities and complications. But Emma, you're not trouble. Tyler's not baggage. You're both the best things that have ever happened to me. I turned to face him, tears in my eyes. I'm scared. I'm terrified of depending on someone and then losing them. I'm terrified of letting Tyler get even more attached to you and then having his heart broken if this falls apart. I'm terrified that I'm not enough for someone like you. Someone like me? Marcus's voice held a note of frustration. Emma, I'm just a person. Yes, I have money. Yes, I run a company. But at the end of the day, I'm just a guy who's been lonely for years, going through the motions with someone who didn't actually love me, wondering if I'd ever find something real. And then you walked into my life, and suddenly everything made sense. But what if... There are no guarantees, Marcus interrupted. I can't promise we'll make it forever. Nobody can promise that. But I can promise I'll do everything in my power to make this work. I can promise I'll never treat you like you're less than equal in this relationship. I can promise that even if things don't work out between us romantically, I'll still be there for Tyler. I'll put that in writing if you need me to, a legal document ensuring his medical care and education are covered, regardless of what happens between us. You do that? I whispered. I already have, Marcus said. He pulled a folder from his bag and handed it to me. My attorney drew this up this week. It's a trust in Tyler's name that covers all his medical expenses and educational costs through graduate school. It's irrevocable, Emma. It exists whether you move in with me or not, whether we stay together or break up tomorrow. Tyler's future is secured, regardless of what happens between us. I opened the folder with shaking hands, scanning the legal documents. It was all there, exactly as Marcus had described. Millions of dollars set aside for Tyler's care. My nephew's future secured with the stroke of a pen. Why? I asked, tears streaming down my face. Why would you do this? Because Tyler deserves security, Marcus said simply, and because I needed you to know that my interest in you has nothing to do with leverage or control. You're free to walk away at any time, Emma. I'm trying to remove every practical barrier, so the only question is whether you want to be with me, not whether you can afford to leave me. I looked at this man, this billionaire CEO who'd somehow seen past all his money and status to recognize that true security meant giving me the freedom to choose, who'd understood that the greatest gift he could give me wasn't luxury, but liberation. Okay, I whispered. Okay? Marcus's expression was hopeful but uncertain. Okay, we'll move in with you. Tyler and me. We'll try this, but slowly, Marcus. We need to do this right. Tyler needs time to adjust. I need time to figure out who I am in this new dynamic. And if at any point this isn't working, you have to promise you'll tell me honestly. I promise, Marcus said, pulling me into his arms. Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for taking this chance. We told Tyler the next morning over breakfast. His reaction was pure 7-year-old excitement. Does this mean I get my own telescope room? He asked immediately. Marcus laughed. If you want a telescope room, you can have a telescope room. And can we get a dog? I've always wanted a dog, but Emma said our apartment was too small. I shot Marcus a look that said, see what you've started, but he just grinned. We'll talk about the dog. The actual move happened 2 weeks later. It was strange packing up my life, the modest apartment that had been my refuge and my prison, into boxes. Rosa and some of the other staff came to help, treating it like a celebration rather than a reminder of the class divide between Marcus's world and mine. When we arrived at the penthouse with all of our belongings, Marcus had transformed one of the spare rooms into a space for Tyler, not just a bedroom, but a kid's dream. A bed that looked like a spaceship, glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling, shelves for books and rocks and all the random treasures Tyler collected, and yes, a telescope by the window. Tyler's face when he saw it made every worry worth it.
"Is this really mine?" he asked, voice full of wonder. "Really yours," Marcus confirmed. "And I thought maybe this weekend we could go shopping for that dog." That night, after Tyler was asleep in his new room, I stood in Marcus's, ours room, looking out at the glittering city lights. Marcus came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist. "Second thoughts?" he asked quietly. "Constantly," I admitted. "But also happiness. Real happiness for the first time in years. That's terrifying in its own way." "I know," Marcus said. "But Emma, we're going to figure this out together. All the complications, all the adjustments, together." I turned in his arms and kissed him, letting myself believe, for the first time, that maybe this really could work, that maybe I deserve this, that maybe, just maybe, the worst moment of my life, that bathroom confrontation with Victoria, had led me to the best thing that ever happened to me.
But settling into their new life would bring unexpected challenges, including a surprise visit from Marcus's mother and a medical crisis that would test the foundation of everything they'd built. We'd been living together for 6 weeks when Marcus's mother, Catherine Sullivan, made an unannounced visit. Marcus had told me about her, the single mother who'd worked multiple jobs to raise him, the woman who'd instilled in him both his work ethic and his compassion. But meeting her was something I'd been consciously avoiding, terrified of her judgment. I was in the kitchen making Tyler a snack after school when the private elevator opened and a petite woman with silver hair and Marcus's exact eyes stepped out. She was wearing jeans and a practical jacket, carrying a worn leather bag that had clearly seen years of use. Nothing about her screamed billionaire's mother. "You must be Emma," she said, and I couldn't read her tone, neutral, assessing. "Mrs. Sullivan," I managed, wiping my hands on a towel. "Marcus didn't mention you were visiting." "He didn't, no," Catherine said. "I wanted to meet you without giving him time to stage manage the encounter. Where is my son?" "At the office. He should be home in about an hour." "Good, that gives us time to talk." My heart sank. This was it, the moment when Marcus's mother would tell me I wasn't good enough for her son, that I was clearly using him, that I should leave before I damaged his reputation further. But Catherine surprised me. "Is that your nephew?" she asked, nodding toward Tyler, who was visible in the next room, building something with his telescope. "Yes, that's Tyler. He looks like he's concentrating hard on something. Marcus mentioned he's interested in astrophysics. Obsessed with it. He wants to study black holes when he grows up. Smart kid." Catherine set down her bag. "Look, Emma, I'm not here to interrogate you or chase you away or whatever you're imagining. I'm here because my son is happier than I've heard him in years, and I wanted to meet the woman responsible for that." "You're not upset about our relationship?" I asked cautiously. "Upset?" Catherine looked genuinely puzzled. "Why would I be upset?" "Because I was his employee, because of the financial disparity, because of all the reasons people keep writing about online." Catherine waved a dismissive hand. "The internet is full of people with too much time and too little sense. Emma, I grew up poor, really poor. I cleaned houses to put food on the table. I worked night shifts at a factory and day shifts at a diner. I know what it's like to be judged for your financial status, and I didn't raise my son to look down on people because of their bank accounts. But surely you're concerned about..." "I'm concerned that he's happy. I'm concerned that he's with someone who sees him as a person, not a portfolio. Marcus's father walked out on us when Marcus was 3 because being a family man didn't fit his image. Then for years, I watched Marcus date women who were more interested in the Sullivan name than in my son. Victoria was the worst of them, pretty packaging wrapped around pure poison." She moved closer, and I resisted the urge to step back. "You stood up to Victoria. You protected yourself and your nephew. And when my son came to your defense, you didn't immediately try to capitalize on it.
You stayed in your tiny apartment in Queens, working your job, maintaining your independence. Do you know how rare that is? I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I was trying to survive. Exactly, Catherine said. And that authenticity is what Marcus needs. So no, Emma, I'm not upset. I'm relieved. Tyler chose that moment to come into the kitchen. Emma, I can't find the star chart you... Oh. He noticed Catherine and his eyes widened. Hi, are you Marcus's mom? You look like him. Catherine smiled, and her whole face transformed. I am. You must be Tyler. I hear you're quite the astronomer. Amateur astronomer, Tyler corrected seriously. I'm only 7, so I can't be professional yet, but I'm working on it. That's a good plan. Do you like living here with Marcus and Emma? Tyler nodded enthusiastically. It's amazing. I have my own telescope, and Marcus is teaching me chess, and Emma lets me stay up late on Fridays to watch documentaries. Plus, we're getting a dog this weekend. Are you? Catherine glanced at me with amusement. Apparently, I said, shooting her a helpless look that said, how do you say no to that face? When Marcus arrived home an hour later, he stopped short at the sight of his mother, Tyler, and me sitting in the living room playing cards. Mom, what are you doing here? Meeting your girlfriend and losing badly to go fish to her nephew. Did you know Tyler's a card shark? I'm not a shark. Sharks are fish. I'm a human. Marcus looked between us uncertainly. Is everything okay? Everything's fine, I said, and meant it. Your mom was just telling us the time you tried to build a rocket in the backyard and nearly burned down the garage. I was 9, and it was a legitimate scientific experiment, Marcus said defensively, but he was smiling. He kissed my temple as he sat down beside me. I'm glad you're here, Mom. So am I, Catherine said, and the way she looked at us, at our makeshift family playing cards on a Thursday afternoon, made me feel like maybe I really did belong here. But that sense of peace shattered 2 days later when Tyler collapsed at school. The call came while Marcus and I were in the penthouse office, going over some household schedules. His new household manager, Patricia, had taken over most of my former duties, leaving me with actual free time to start writing again, something Marcus had quietly encouraged and I'd been afraid to embrace. My phone rang, and when I saw Tyler's school on the caller ID, my heart stopped. Hello? Mrs. Parker, this is Principal Hoffman. Tyler collapsed during recess. The paramedics are here now, and we're taking him to Mount Sinai. You should come immediately. The phone slipped from my hand. Marcus caught it, listened to the principal repeat the information, and immediately sprang into action. David, bring the car round now. It's an emergency. Then to me, Emma, breathe. We're going to him right now. The drive to Mount Sinai was a blur. My mind kept replaying the principal's words. Tyler collapsed. My nephew, my responsibility, the child I'd promised to protect. What if his condition had worsened? What if the treatments weren't working? What if I lost him the way I'd lost my sister? Marcus held my hand the entire drive, not saying anything, just being present. When we arrived at the hospital, he spoke to the staff with the kind of authority that comes from both wealth and genuine concern, and within minutes, we were being led to Tyler's room. Tyler was awake, looking small and pale in the hospital bed, hooked up to monitors that beeped rhythmically. When he saw me, tears filled his eyes. Emma, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. Oh, baby, I rushed to his side, taking his hand. You have nothing to be sorry for. What happened? I was running, and then everything went dizzy and black. It was scary.
Tyler said it was scary. The medical crisis would reveal the depth of Marcus's commitment to Tyler and force Emma to confront whether she could truly share the burden of parenthood. The doctor arrived 20 minutes later, Dr. Chen, Tyler's primary specialist, who Marcus had called personally to ensure immediate consultation. Tyler experienced a syncope episode, Dr. Chen explained after examining him. Basically, a temporary loss of consciousness related to his respiratory condition. His oxygen levels dropped during physical exertion. "Is he going to be okay?" I asked, my voice barely steady. "We need to run some tests and adjust his medication dosage," Dr. Chen said. "He'll need to stay overnight for observation, possibly longer depending on what we find. But Emma, I want to be honest with you. Tyler's condition is progressing slightly faster than we'd hoped. We may need to consider more aggressive treatment options." The words hit me like a physical blow. More aggressive, meaning what? "Possibly a surgical intervention we've discussed before," Dr. Chen said gently. "It's not an emergency at this moment, but we should start seriously considering it." After Dr. Chen left, I sat beside Tyler's bed while he drifted off to sleep, exhausted from the episode and the tests. Marcus had stepped out to make some calls, and I was alone with my thoughts and fears. This was my fault. I'd let myself get distracted by happiness, by the novelty of this new life with Marcus, by the luxury of not worrying about money every second. I'd taken my eye off what mattered most, Tyler's health. I'd been playing house while my nephew's condition deteriorated. When Marcus returned, he found me crying silently, trying not to wake Tyler. "Hey," he said softly, pulling a chair next to mine. "Talk to me." "I can't do this. I can't be in a relationship and Tyler's guardian. I don't have room in my head for both. I let myself get distracted, and look what happened." "Tyler's collapse has nothing to do with you being distracted," Marcus said firmly. "Dr. Chen said this is progression of his condition, not neglect. You've done everything right." "Have I?" I looked at him. "Because I feel like I've been selfish, playing happy family, writing in my spare time, going on date nights with you while Tyler needed me to be focused on his health." "Tyler needs you to be happy, Emma. Kids aren't stupid, Emma. He knows when you're drowning in stress. And yes, his health is important, but so is yours. So is your right to have a life beyond just being a caregiver." "You don't understand," I said. "You're not responsible for anyone but yourself. You don't know what it's like to have a child's life depending on your choices." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was steady but serious. "You're right, I don't have a child. But Emma, I want to be responsible for Tyler. Not as your boyfriend who helps out sometimes, but as someone who's genuinely invested in his well-being. I want to be his parent in every way that matters." "Marcus?" "Let me finish," he said. "I know I'm not his dad. I know I can't replace what he lost, but I love that kid. I love his random facts about space. I love how seriously he takes his telescope observations. I love the way he corrects my chess moves and then apologizes for being rude. I love him, Emma, and I want to be there for him not just financially, but emotionally, permanently." "What are you saying?" I asked, my heart pounding. "I want to adopt Tyler," Marcus said quietly, "if he'll have me, if you'll let me. I want to be his legal guardian alongside you. I want to make medical decisions if something happens. I want him to know that he has two people who will always be there for him, no matter what." I stared at him, unable to process what I was hearing. "That's a huge commitment. That's forever, Marcus. What if we don't work out? What if—" "The trust I set up for Tyler is forever regardless of our relationship. This is separate from that. This is about me wanting to be Tyler's parent because I love him, not because I'm trying to secure you. And honestly, Emma, if our relationship ends, I'd still want to be in Tyler's life. He's not contingent on us working out romantically." Tears streamed down my face. "Why would you want this? Tyler comes with medical issues, emotional trauma, complicated needs.
You could have your own children someday with someone who... I don't want hypothetical children with some hypothetical person. I want this family, you and Tyler, the family we're building right now. That's what I want. I looked at Tyler sleeping peacefully in the hospital bed, this brave little boy who'd lost so much. I thought about Marcus, this man who'd somehow seen past all the barriers between our worlds to choose us, to choose responsibility and complexity and real love over the easier path. I need to ask Tyler, I finally said. This isn't just my decision. Of course, Marcus agreed, whenever he's ready to talk about it. We spent that night in Tyler's hospital room, taking turns sleeping in the uncomfortable chair while the other kept watch. At one point, deep in the night, Marcus woke me gently. "Emma, look." Tyler had reached out in his sleep, one hand tangled in my sleeve, the other gripping Marcus's hand, connected to both of us, even unconscious, seeking the security of knowing we were there. "That's family," Marcus whispered. "That's what we already are." The next morning, Dr. Chen confirmed that Tyler would need surgery within the next 2 months. It was a complex procedure, but it offered the best chance for long-term improvement. The cost would be astronomical. Even with insurance, we were looking at potentially hundreds of thousands in expenses. "The trust I set up for Tyler covers all medical expenses," Marcus said immediately when Dr. Chen mentioned costs. "Whatever he needs, however much it costs, it's covered." Tyler, awake now and listening, looked between us. "Marcus, that's a lot of money." "You're worth it," Marcus said simply. "But what if the surgery doesn't work?" Tyler asked with the brutal honesty of a child. "What if you spend all that money and I'm still sick?" Marcus sat on the edge of Tyler's bed. "Tyler, the money isn't important. You are. Whether the surgery works perfectly or we need to try other treatments, you're worth every penny. You're worth everything." Tyler was quiet for a moment, processing. Then he said, "Emma told me you want to adopt me. Is that true?" I shot Marcus a surprised look. I hadn't mentioned it to Tyler yet, but Tyler apparently had been awake and listening more than we'd realized. "It's true," Marcus said carefully, "but only if you want me to. I know I'm not your dad, Tyler. I know I can't replace what you lost, but I love you, and I want to be your family, not just Emma's boyfriend who lives with you guys, but really your family, your parent, if you're okay with that."
Tyler's answer would shape all their futures, but the surgery itself would test Marcus and Emma's relationship in ways neither of them anticipated. Tyler was quiet for so long, I thought he might refuse Marcus's offer. Finally, he said, "Will you still want to be my dad even after the surgery, even if it doesn't work and I'm still sick?" "Especially then," Marcus said firmly. "Parents don't love their kids conditionally, Tyler. They don't stop loving them because things get hard. If the surgery doesn't work, we'll figure out the next step together, as a family. And you'll teach me chess even though I keep beating you?" Marcus laughed, the tension breaking. "Even though you keep beating me, you little hustler." "Okay," Tyler said. "Then yes, I'd like you to be my dad. Is that okay, Emma?" I was crying too hard to speak, so I just nodded and pulled both of them into a hug that Tyler tolerated for exactly 10 seconds before complaining that we were going to break his monitors. The adoption paperwork began that week. Marcus's attorneys expedited the process, navigating the legal complexities with efficiency that probably only money could buy, but I didn't care. Watching Marcus fill out forms that declared Tyler as his son, watching him meet with social workers and answer questions about parenting philosophy and long-term commitment, I fell in love with him all over again. Tyler's surgery was scheduled 6 weeks later at Columbia Presbyterian. Dr. Chen assembled a team of specialists, and we met with them multiple times to understand the risks and benefits. The procedure would address the structural issues causing Tyler's respiratory problems, but it was complex, delicate work. The success rate was high, but not guaranteed. The night before the surgery, none of us could sleep. Tyler was anxious, despite trying to be brave. Marcus and I lay on either side of his bed in his room, and we watched astronomy documentaries until finally Tyler drifted off around 2 a.m. "I'm terrified," I whispered to Marcus across Tyler's sleeping form. "Me too," Marcus admitted. "But he's strong, and he's got the best medical team money can buy, and, the most importantly, he's got us." We arrived at the hospital at 5 a.m. for pre-op. Tyler was trying to be brave, cracking jokes about waking up with superpowers, but I could see the fear in his eyes. When they came to take him to the operating room, he grabbed both our hands. "You'll be here when I wake up?" he asked. "We're not going anywhere," Marcus promised. "Both of us will be right here." "Promise?" "Promise," we said in unison. They wheeled Tyler away, and I felt my heart go with him. Marcus led me to the surgical waiting room, a bland space with uncomfortable chairs and magazines nobody could focus on reading. We were the only ones there at first, but gradually other families arrived, each wrapped in their own anxiety. The surgery was supposed to take 4 to 6 hours. At the 1-hour mark, I couldn't sit still anymore. I paced the waiting room, driving myself crazy with what-if scenarios. What if something went wrong? What if I lost Tyler, like I lost Rachel? What if this was a mistake, and we should have tried other treatments first? Marcus tried to calm me down, but I was spiraling. "I can't lose him," I said, tears streaming down my face. "I can't. Marcus, he's all I have left of my sister. If something happens to him—" "Nothing's going to happen," Marcus said, but I could see his own fear beneath the calm exterior. At hour 3, a nurse came out to update us. "Everything is progressing well, no complications so far." We should have felt relieved, but the "so far" hung over us like a storm cloud. At hour 5, I watched Marcus. He was sitting forward in his chair, elbows on his knees, staring at nothing. His phone had been buzzing constantly, work emergencies, meetings he was missing, but he'd turned it off after the 2nd hour. "You should take some of those calls," I said. "I know you have important things." "Nothing is more important than this, than Tyler, than being here with you. Emma, my assistant, can handle whatever's happening at the office. I'm exactly where I need to be." At hour 6, Dr. Chen finally emerged, still in surgical scrubs. My heart stopped. It had taken longer than expected. Was that bad? Did something go wrong? But Dr. Chen was smiling. "The surgery went very well. Better than we hoped, actually. Tyler's in recovery now. He'll be groggy for a while, but you can see him soon." I collapsed against Marcus, sobbing with relief. He held me, and I felt his tears in my hair. "He's okay," Marcus kept repeating. "He's okay." When they finally let us into the recovery room, Tyler looked so small in that hospital bed, surrounded by monitors and IV lines, but his eyes fluttered open when we approached, and he gave us a weak smile. "Did I get superpowers?" he asked, his voice hoarse from the breathing tube. "Definitely," Marcus said, gripping Tyler's hand. "You're officially the toughest kid I know." "Both of you stayed?" Tyler asked. "We promised. We're both here. We're both staying." Tyler's recovery took 2 weeks in the hospital, then 6 more weeks of careful monitoring at home. Marcus took a leave of absence from work, something that shocked his entire company. The CEO of Sullivan Technologies stepping away during a major product launch to care for his adopted son. But he did it without hesitation. He learned to change surgical dressings, administer medications, navigate the complexities of post-operative care. He held Tyler during the painful moments and celebrated every milestone. And I watched this man, this billionaire who could have had any life he wanted, choose our complicated, messy, beautiful reality. Choose us every single day. 3 months after the surgery, Dr. Chen declared Tyler's recovery a complete success. His lung function had dramatically improved.
He'd need ongoing monitoring, but the worst was behind us. Tyler could run again without getting dizzy. He could play sports if he wanted to. He could, Dr. Chen said with a smile, plan on that career in astrophysics after all. That night, Marcus asked me to marry him. The proposal would come with its own complications, but Emma was finally ready to say yes to a future she'd never let herself imagine.
He didn't do it the way I'd expected. No fancy restaurant, no grand gesture, no photographers capturing a moment for social media. Instead, Marcus proposed on a random Tuesday evening after Tyler had gone to bed. We were sitting on the penthouse balcony, sharing a bottle of wine and looking at the city lights. It had been a good day. Tyler had his 3-month post-surgery checkup and got a perfect report. Marcus's company had just closed a major deal he'd been working on for months. We were both exhausted, but content. That particular kind of tired that comes from good work and good outcomes. "Emma," Marcus said suddenly, setting down his wine glass, "I want to ask you something." "Okay," I said, expecting a question about Tyler's upcoming school enrollment or what we should do for his birthday next month. Instead, Marcus pulled a small box from his pocket. "I don't have a speech prepared," he said. "I thought about writing something perfect and romantic, but that's not us. We're not perfect, and we didn't start with romance. We started with champagne spills and bathroom confrontations and gradually finding each other through all the chaos." He opened the box to reveal a ring. Elegant but simple, a single diamond on platinum band. "This was my grandmother's ring, the woman who raised my mom when my grandfather walked out, the woman who taught my mother that strength comes from doing what needs to be done, not from pretending everything's easy." "Marcus," I started, tears already forming. "Emma Parker, you're the strongest person I've ever met. You're also the kindest, the most genuine, the most fiercely protective. You make me want to be better. You and Tyler make me feel like I finally understand what family really means. So I'm asking, will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life choosing you every single day?" I looked at the ring, at Marcus's hopeful face, at the city stretching out before us, full of possibility, and I thought about everything that had brought us to this moment, the pain, the fear, the media storms, the hospital vigils, the gradual building of trust. "Yes," I whispered. "Yes, I'll marry you." Marcus slipped the ring onto my finger, and it fit perfectly. He kissed me, and I tasted salt from my own tears. "I love you," he said against my lips. "I love you so much." "I love you too. Even though you're terrible at chess and you can't cook to save your life and you work too many hours. And you're stubborn and independent to a fault and you still try to pay for things even though we've combined finances," Marcus countered, smiling. "We're perfectly imperfect." We told Tyler the next morning at breakfast. His reaction was pure joy. He jumped up from his cereal and hugged us both, shouting, "This is the best day ever," at a volume that made us wince. Then he immediately launched into planning mode. "Can we have a space theme? Can I be the best man? Can we get a cake that looks like Saturn?" "How about we start with you finishing your breakfast?" I suggested, laughing. But Tyler was already off and running with ideas, and I realized that this was what happiness looked like. Not perfect moments in perfect settings, but chaotic mornings with an excited 8-year-old planning our wedding while milk dripped from his forgotten spoon. We decided on a small wedding, just close friends and family. Marcus's mother cried when we told her, hugging me so tight I could barely breathe. "Welcome to the family officially. Not that you weren't already family, but now it's legal." The other staff members threw us a surprise engagement party at the penthouse. Rosa decorated the entire place, and James made a speech about how he'd never seen Marcus truly happy until I came into his life. It was touching, and embarrassing, and perfect. But planning the wedding also meant confronting some lingering insecurities.
One evening, about a month after the engagement, I found myself staring at wedding venue options on my laptop and feeling overwhelmed. "Marcus," I said, "I don't know how to do this." "Do what?" He looked up from his own work. "This whole wedding thing. The venues all cost more than I used to make in a year. The photographers want thousands of dollars for a few hours of pictures. Even the simple options feel extravagant, and I don't know how to navigate this without feeling like I'm taking advantage, or without feeling guilty about spending money on one day when there are people struggling to feed their families." Marcus closed his laptop and came to sit beside me. "Emma, this is our wedding. It's okay to want it to be special. And yes, we have financial resources most people don't, but you've earned the right to enjoy them without guilt. You've worked hard your entire life. You've sacrificed for Tyler. You've chosen kindness even when people treated you cruelly. This isn't taking advantage. This is accepting that you deserve good things." I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for something to go wrong, for this all to be revealed as a dream or a mistake. I'm not used to things working out. "I know, but Emma, you're allowed to be happy. You're allowed to trust that this is real. I'm not going anywhere. Tyler's healthy. We're building a life together. It's okay to let yourself believe in it." I leaned against him, letting his steadiness anchor me. "Thank you for being patient with me while I figure out how to do this. Take all the time you need. I'm not in a hurry. Well, actually, I'd marry you tomorrow if you'd let me, but I understand we need to do this properly for Tyler and for everyone who wants to celebrate with us." We set the date for 6 months out, enough time to plan, but not so long that Tyler would drive us crazy with wedding talk. The venue we chose was Marcus's mother's suggestion, a botanical garden in upstate New York where she and Marcus used to visit when he was a child. It was beautiful without being ostentatious, meaningful without being stuffy. Catherine helped me find a dress, not from a designer showroom in Manhattan, but from a small boutique in Brooklyn run by a woman who specialized in elegant simplicity. The dress was perfect. Ivory silk, simple lines, nothing that would make me feel like I was playing dress-up in someone else's life. Tyler's excitement never wavered. He took his role as best man incredibly seriously, practicing his speech in front of the mirror and asking Marcus endless questions about wedding protocol. "Do I have to wear a tie? How long should my speech be? Can I mention the time you burned breakfast so badly the smoke alarm went off?" "Yes to the tie, keep the speech under 3 minutes, and absolutely not," Marcus said. But he was laughing. The week before the wedding, Victoria's name appeared in my newsfeed. She was engaged again, some hedge fund manager from Connecticut. The announcement was accompanied by photos that looked remarkably like the ones that used to be taken of her and Marcus. She'd found another wealthy man to fund her lifestyle and apparently learned nothing from the previous disaster. "Do you feel anything seeing that?" Marcus asked when I showed him. "Pity," I said, honestly. She's still trying to buy happiness through other people's money. She still doesn't understand that relationships are about more than status and appearances. I feel sorry for her next victim. "I don't," Marcus said. "I just feel grateful that her cruelty led me to you. Everything bad that happened was worth it for this." The wedding would be everything Emma never let herself dream about, but the real test of their marriage would come in the years that followed.
The morning of the wedding, I woke up in Catherine's guest room, surrounded by my closest friends and family. It was a smaller group than Marcus would have had if he'd been marrying someone from his social circle. No society matrons, no business associates trying to network, no celebrities looking for photo opportunities. Just the people who genuinely mattered. Rosa was there, helping with my makeup. Mrs. Chen from my old apartment building had made the trip upstate, bringing Tyler's favorite cookies because every best man needs cookies. And Catherine was there, fastening my grandmother's pearl necklace around my neck, the only valuable thing I owned from my old life. "You're going to be beautiful," Catherine said, stepping back to look at me. "But more importantly, you're going to be happy."
That's what matters." Tyler burst into the room in his small suit, looking impossibly grown up. "Emma, you look like a princess, but like a science princess, the kind who discovers new planets." I laughed through tears. "That's the best compliment I've ever received." "Are you ready?" he asked seriously, "because Marcus is really nervous downstairs, and I think he needs you to get married soon before he passes out." The ceremony took place in the botanical garden, under a canopy of late summer blooms. Marcus had been right about being nervous. When I walked down the aisle on Tyler's arm, his insistence, because I'm giving you away to Marcus, not some random person, Marcus's eyes were shining with tears. We'd written our own vows. When it was my turn to speak, I took Marcus's hands and said, "Marcus Sullivan, you saw me when I was invisible. You stood up for me when no one else would. You chose me and Tyler when you could have chosen easier, simpler, less complicated. You taught me that accepting help isn't weakness, that asking for support doesn't make me less strong. You showed me what real partnership looks like. I promise to choose you every day, through the easy times and the hard ones, through the moments that look perfect on the surface and the ones that are messy and real. I promise to be your partner, your equal, your friend, and your wife." Marcus's vows were simpler but equally powerful. "Emma, you made me believe in real love. You showed me what it means to be truly strong, to keep going when everything is falling apart, to choose kindness when the world is cruel, to protect the people you love no matter the cost. I promise to honor your strength without trying to diminish it, to support your independence while building our partnership, to be Tyler's father and your husband with everything I have. I choose you, Emma, today and every day after." When the officiant pronounced us married and Marcus kissed me, Tyler cheered so loudly that everyone laughed. Our first act as a family married was the three of us hugging while our guests applauded and cameras captured the moment, not for publicity, but for memory. The reception was everything a wedding should be. Good food, heartfelt speeches. Tyler's was exactly 3 minutes and included 2 space puns, dancing under string lights, and that particular kind of joy that comes from being surrounded by people who genuinely love you. One point, I found myself standing at the edge of the dance floor watching Marcus twirl Tyler around to a fast song, both of them laughing. Catherine appeared beside me. "That's my son being a father," she said softly. "I never thought I'd see it. But Emma, you gave him this. You gave him a family." "I gave him one too," I said. "We gave each other everything." 5 years later. I'm writing this final part from my home office, the room Marcus converted for me when I finally admitted I wanted to take writing seriously. My first novel came out last year, a middle-grade fantasy about a girl navigating 2 worlds. It didn't make bestseller lists, but it found its readers, and that felt more valuable than any commercial success. Tyler is 13 now, thriving in a specialized STEM program at his school. His health is excellent. The surgery was a complete success. He's taller than me, horrifyingly enough, and shows no signs of the traumatized 7-year-old he once was. He calls Marcus Dad without hesitation and saves Marcus when he's annoyed, which apparently is teenager speak for deep affection. We had a daughter 2 years ago, Sophia Catherine Sullivan, named for both my sister and Marcus's mother. She's currently napping in the next room while I work, and Marcus has this afternoon off to watch her so I can write. Our life isn't perfect. Marcus still works too much sometimes. I still have moments of insecurity when I feel like I don't belong in this world. Tyler is navigating teenage years with all the associated drama. Sophia is going through a phase where she only wants Marcus at bedtime, which breaks my heart even though I know it's normal. We have arguments about money, about parenting styles, about whose turn it is to handle the school pickup. But we also have joy. Real, deep, lasting joy.
Last week, Tyler won a regional science competition, and his first question was whether we were proud of him. Last month, Marcus took the whole day off just to take me to a writing conference because I was nervous about going alone. Yesterday, Sophia said "Mama" for the first time. These are the moments that matter. Sometimes I think about that bathroom confrontation 5 years ago, about kneeling on that cold tile floor, feeling worthless and broken. I think about Victoria's cruelty and how it inadvertently led me here. I think about the worst moment of my life became the catalyst for the best thing that ever happened to me. I'm not grateful for the abuse. I don't believe everything happens for a reason in some cosmic sense. But I do believe that sometimes survival leads to strength, that sometimes the people who see us at our lowest become the ones who help lift us to our highest, that sometimes the most unlikely love stories turn out to be the most real. Victoria tried to destroy me. Instead, she accidentally revealed who Marcus truly was, a man who would stand up for what's right, even at personal cost. And she revealed who I was too, someone strong enough to survive, to build, to love again despite fear. I learned that accepting help doesn't make you weak, that letting people love you is an act of courage, that family isn't just about blood, it's about choice, commitment, and showing up every day, even when it's hard. Marcus just walked into my office with Sophia on his hip, both of them grinning. "Tyler wants to know if we can get a second dog," he says. "I told him to ask you since you're the one who said one dog was enough." I look at my husband holding our daughter, and I think about our son downstairs lobbying for another pet, and I think about the life we've built from the wreckage of that terrible day. "Tell him we'll discuss it at family dinner," I say. "You're going to say yes, aren't you?" Marcus asks knowingly. "Probably," I admit. But he doesn't need to know that yet. Marcus laughs and kisses the top of my head. "I love you, Emma Sullivan. I love you too. And I mean it with everything I am." This is my life now. Not perfect, but real. Not simple, but deeply, profoundly good. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. Epilogue. 3 years later. If you enjoyed this story of survival, strength, and unexpected love, please like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear that standing up for what's right matters, that sometimes the hardest moments lead to the most beautiful outcomes, that you're stronger than you know. Drop a comment below telling me, would you have had the courage to accept help when you needed it most, or would fear have held you back? Subscribe and hit that notification bell for more incredible stories about overcoming adversity and finding love in unexpected places. Remember, your worst moment might be leading you to your best life. Don't give up. Thank you for reading Emma's journey. May you find your own courage to choose happiness when it's offered, and may you always remember that you deserve good things, no matter what your past has told you.